Tuz Biber FM.
Hello, can I see your passports, please?
So, welcome. Another episode of Passport Comedy Podcast, folks. We are here. Yay! A lot of excitement.
Yes, Alican.
It's like Parkinson disease clap. I don't get it. Anyways, claps. A lot of mentally ill people try to clap our episode starting today.
Parkinson's isn't a mental health issue.
Those are two unrelated sentences. You just made a connection. It's on you. But anyways, Passport Comedy Podcast, everyone. We are interviewing comedians and the creators all around the world. Today I am here joined by
Erin Crouch.
And
Rabiah Coon.
And also helping me
Nilüfer.
co-host Nilüfer Yüce. Yay! Thank you guys so much for coming to Tuz Biber FM studios. We are so excited to have you here. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourselves? Maybe Rabiah, you want to go first?
Sure. So, like you said, my name is Rabiah. I am American, but I live in London. I've lived in London since the beginning of 2020, so good timing, of course.
Right after pandemic.
Right before.
Before?
Yeah, so I spent the pandemic in a studio flat in London, which was fine. And then I started doing comedy about just over 3 years ago, I guess, and probably did more in lockdown than I've done out of lockdown so far. But yeah, and so it's great to be in Istanbul. It's really cool.
You started back in the States.
Yeah, I was in San Diego, so I started in the States and then moved to London, and so I've been working the open mics over there and some of the other gigs up in like Liverpool and Manchester and stuff like that. It's been awesome.
That's great. Erin, how about you?
So I'm Erin. I'm from the States as well. I'm actually from Alaska, but I've been living in Germany since 2019. I got there about 6 months before the pandemic, so I saw a few things. And I started doing comedy 6 years ago. I actually started in Estonia.
Estonia?
Estonia, in Tallinn. And at the time, the scene was really, really small there, but the scene has actually grown a lot. I went back for Tallinn Fringe in August, and I got to headline the opening show of the Fringe, and it was dope. It was so good. Cool. And the venue there is so good too. It's called Heldike, and it's a former brothel. They have they have a sauna in the back, and on Wednesdays you're allowed to be in the bar and hang out in the sauna or whatever, and they have a great stage. So it was really fun.
Is it a co-ed sauna?
It is, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Sexy.
Yes.
So this is going to be relevant to our listeners by the time we edit this episode. But Rabiah and Erin is here for doing shows and also visiting Istanbul as tourists, right?
Yeah.
And they did shows with TB English Comedy and also a split show, I think. Good luck so far. I think last night we had the ladies English comedy night with you guys. How did you feel?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun. It was great to meet the local comics, and the audience was really good. They were really into what we were doing, and I had a really good time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I was nervous about some material, how it would go over, or just how things would work, and it was good. And the audience was great, and I think kind of forced some fans to take a photo with us by accident. I didn't mean to, and I was like, "You want a photo with us?" Yeah. So yeah, and it was really cool. So, and just it's fun to do comedy somewhere else, but then being an all-female lineup too, I felt that was really good. And some feedback from other comics was just that it was nice to be on that kind of lineup too.
What material were you worried about?
Well, so I do a bit just about my name, and my last name specifically is a racial slur in other countries, and I would say
America, specifically.
Yeah, specifically America. I mean, they're good at racial slurs.
Can you help me out? I'm not aware of it.
Really?
Coon.
Yeah, so it's just another. It's a derogatory term. I mean, it was used in Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, that book, for example, and it's my last name, and so I try to diffuse it by. It's not a big deal because the punchline's known by people who've seen my comedy, and if they haven't, it's fine. But Rabiah Coon, my name is unique because it's both ethnic and racist at the same time, right? And so I was worried about that, and so I had to explain it a little bit. So I was worried about that one specifically, and then also just I do talk a little bit quickly, and I don't think that's always good if people aren't.
Especially the audience, if the audience's second language is English.
Yeah, exactly. So I tried to slow it down a little bit and that kind of thing. But I think that was one that usually hits really well, so it's hard for me when it doesn't. So I was worried about it. But everything went fine. I mean, not everything hit, but I was okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just to be sure, who is getting offended by Coon? So I don't say it in the wrong
Black folks.
place. Black folks?
It's not a good.
Another one in the list then. All right.
That's. I guess you don't know because it's not a thing in the UK. Like, right?
Probably not in the rest of the
No,
world.
the UK
only.
knows it.
UK knows it.
Yeah, they're pretty handy with racism as well.
Slurs, yeah.
I learned my slurs from South Park as I grew up, so that's how I know how it's offensive or not.
Right.
If Eric Cartman is using it, then it's offensive.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where people would say it, and so I addressed it when I started doing comedy. It's one of those things.
I don't know if you want to keep talking about it, but do you know where it comes from? Like, why is it like your ancestors were a bunch of slave owners? Like,
oh, the last name? No. So I mean, this gets into the.
Hey.
Gets into why we,
probably. I mean,
no, because I'm actually. My dad, my biological father's from Lebanon. And this is my stepdad's last name, and I won't get into all of it. But one
Right.
reason I'm on stage is because of child issues from childhood.
Of course.
But
of course.
You
But it's
want
my
this to be
stepdad's-
light and fun.
yeah,
yes.
it's my stepdad's last name, and so I don't know. And he would never.
Is he black?
No,
Oh.
no. He's from Detroit, and he would just always, like, when we would have those projects where you have to do like what your ancestry is, and my brother would always, it was also my brother's stepdad, but my brother always tried to get him, oh, Dad, where are you guys from? And he's like, Michigan. And then where from before that? He'd be like, Michigan. So he'd never tell us. So I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know?
That's weird.
Oh, wow.
No, and it'll never be known, apparently. I'll have to change my name and then know where that name came from.
Yes.
That's great.
That's great.
That's
good talk, guys.
Good talk. Thank you so much.
That's weird.
That's also weird. Great and weird at the
I'm going
same
to put that
time.
on posters from now on, all right? That's weird, Murat.
I hear that a lot. I don't know if it's a coincidence. Is the problem with me? I don't know. Am I the weird one
What
or
is it?
everybody else? People say that's weird, Murat. For the most things I do.
No, it's you. It's definitely about you.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. The world is a safe place without me. Okay, I'm gonna off myself soon. Don't worry about that, guys.
Murat.
Okay, you off me, alright. Taking a tangent, I'm sorry.
I love how we're having all this like racist talk and like killing yourself, but we're like, This
Comedy.
is also funny. Yeah.
Yeah, comedy. We should be able to make fun and light about this, right? I don't know.
Well,
I feel like I'm really afraid of what the next thing we're going to talk about is. Like, they're looking at me and I'm like, oh no.
Subject, Murat, let's go.
So, Erin, how did you start doing stand-up comedy, especially in Estonia, where there was no competition? That was the trigger point.
Yeah, right. I was like, I wanted to start in a place where no one had anything to compare it to. I wanted
I
to
am
set
the
my
best comic in
expectations.
Estonia right now because
Exactly.
no one else is doing it.
Exactly. Pretty much, yeah. No. I went to like an open mic. Like I had never been to, I always liked comedy. I watched it on TV and I had been to live shows and things like that, but I had never thought of doing it myself. And then there was this English language open mic, and in Estonia there wasn't like all that many English language things to do at the time. And so I was like, oh, I'll go check it out. And I saw it, and the guys that went up, they were okay, but I was like, I think I'm funny. I think I'm funnier than them. Let's see. And so I asked the organizer, like, could I go up? And he was like, sure.
Yeah. Negative reinforcement works, right?
Exactly. So I went up and I actually had a really good set, like the first time, which never happens. And it was like not to be repeated again for another year that I did that well. But after the first time, I was like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then we went back to the States from Estonia after a couple years in Estonia there. And when I came back, I thought like, oh, I've been doing comedy for a while. But the difference between doing like 2 open mics a month in Estonia versus living in the Seattle area where you could go to, mics every night of the week was a really huge change. And
Maybe multiple open mics every night.
yeah, exactly. Multiple open mics every night. And, and just the level. And also all my jokes were about being American in Estonia. And so that material obviously is not going to hit very well with people in Seattle. They don't care. They don't even know where Estonia is. And they're all Americans. So no jokes about Americans are funny to them. So yeah, I had to like start over and write my own new material and everything.
What years were you in Seattle?
I was in the Seattle area. We lived in Portland for the first year, and then we moved to Tacoma, which I now refer to as Seattle because it sounds better.
The greater Seattle area.
Yes, the greater Seattle area. Depending on how cool you want to be, it extends like all the way down. But we were there from like 2018 to when we moved to Germany. It's like another year and a half after that. So we spent about three years in the area there of the Pacific Northwest.
Okay. I have a friend, Steven, who does comedy in Seattle, but...
What's his last name?
I think Wright. Stephen Wright.
No, I don't know.
He ran away from Savannah.
Good for him.
For reasons I probably should not disclose.
Maybe he goes by a new name now.
That's very probable. he broke into... Whatever.
Steven, if you are listening to this podcast, Nilüfer is still looking for you. So hide to a new place.
No, now it sounds like he broke into... He was able to break into my house when I forgot my key. And that's a memory. I have
that story had a positive turn.
Had nothing to do with him leaving Savannah.
It's a locksmith in a comic. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. You're right.
Well, normally comics don't have any other skills, so that's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, useful to have a friend who knows how to break into your house.
Yeah, it was nice. It was like,
Yeah.
cool. Thanks, dude.
If you are looking for a new friend who knows how to break into houses,
Oh, man.
just come up to me next time.
All right. Good to know.
Good to know.
That's weird, Murat.
I hear that a lot, and I kind of beginning to enjoy hearing this, so I might do more weird things to hear this more. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, and obviously for doing a lot of comedy in different cultures and different countries. Did you ever do comedy in a second language?
Yeah, I used to do Russian every once in a while. I speak Russian too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to do it sometimes when I was in Estonia and in Latvia. In Riga, they have a pretty good Russian scene. But yeah, I haven't done it in a long time. It's different because you can't just do the same joke in another language. Like, you guys know that, right? Because you do both.
I do.
You do both. Well, it depends. Like, some you can take the idea and like do it, but
I have
sometimes
to
it's just not as funny.
Change it, but yeah.
Yeah, or sometimes there's something that's like way more funny in one of the languages than it is in the other. And you have to kind of tool it up. And I never spent as much time getting it right. And now I haven't done it in a long time. So I think about returning to it, but now seems like a bad time to
We
go
actually
back to
have a growing Russian scene here, comedy scene.
I know.
Russian open mics started, they are doing it frequently now.
Some of my Russian stand-up friends now live in Istanbul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about you, Rabiah?
I can only speak English.
You said
think-
it like you are ashamed of yourself.
It was a bit shameful. I mean, I did, I learned Spanish in high school, but only 2 years, and I would always get in trouble in class for being a smart aleck and stuff like that. So I never learned the other language. No, I think it is actually, it's not good to only know one language. So
Actually, you are trying to learn British English now.
Yeah, that's a mess. To be honest, they want to change the spelling of every word, and it's ridiculous. So, yeah.
How American of you.
It is.
Are you subjected to a lot of stereotypes in the open mic scene in UK? Like, she's American, so she doesn't know this and stuff and that. I
mean, people definitely... I don't know if I'm subject to stereotypes, but I think a lot of people just make jokes about Americans, and you just have to kind of sit there and be like, oh, okay. And some of them, it's like, I know I've read more.
They're
than you
talking
have.
about others, not me.
Yeah, you just kind of ignore it. I mean, and I don't tend to have a go at the British people when I'm doing stand-up in England, because it's just, I don't know. I'm living in their country. I'm not from there. But I don't get too many stereotypes on me, but I will go up after someone just completely annihilated America on their set, and it's kind of weird to go, oh, hey guys, I'm American, I hope you don't hate me because you clearly hate America. But it's fine.
They actually love if you piss on them. Piss off? What? I don't know.
Piss them
The
off?
Brits
Piss them off. Like,
Which
roasting
direction is the piss?
take the piss.
Like, oh, you take it or you give it?
No, they want to, if you
I don't
take the
know.
piss, I
it's
think.
in UK slang, taking the piss.
Yeah, take the piss. But if you piss on them, that's
That's the opposite.
That's
you have to
like
be on a-
physically pissing on them.
Yeah, and that's a different dating app than we were talking about on.
Okay, another this is weird moment I have. But
I don't know.
actually-
For you, like, do you hear anything about Americans, Erin? Like,
I actually think that being American in the English scene in like Germany and Amsterdam, I think it actually gives you an advantage because people watch a lot of American stand up and they like when
Yeah.
you come out, they automatically think like, oh, she must be good
yeah.
because she's she's a native English speaker and she has an American accent.
Right.
So I think it kind of pushes you ahead, but you have to be careful because like a lot of jokes about being American are very like low hanging fruit, you know, and everybody's heard like 15 jokes about how Americans don't speak other languages or how Americans don't do this or they don't do that. And unless you have like a really funny take on that, I get bored of listening to jokes by Americans about America.
Yeah, it can
Yeah.
be hacky.
Yeah.
It's super hacky.
yeah, and it's kind of like we're Americans who aren't living over there, and like, I mean, Erin's really well traveled, speaks a couple languages, stuff like that. I've traveled enough, and I'm definitely not that kind of American, quote unquote, that they are talking about. So it's kind of interesting. And I think the one thing in the UK, there are a lot of American comics, so it's kind of
yeah.
you have to
Yeah,
do
less
something
so
else
in Germany,
Yeah.
less
Is it-
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's overgeneralizing anyways, every country. Each race has their own, I don't know, ignorant people or fits into the stereotype. If you look hard, you can find people who will fit the stereotype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know I have a lot of American friends and none of them fit the bill.
Yeah, and I agree with Erin. Like, the tropes get old. Like, unless you're doing it in a new way, you're kind of,
Yeah.
like you said, too hacky.
Yeah, it happens pretty often in Germany that in an English lineup that I'm the only American on the lineup, which I think is helpful for me because people aren't sick
Yeah.
of it, you know?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Do they also make jokes about American stereotypes like they do in UK with Rabiah being there and observing that? Did you observe that in Germany?
Not so much. I mean, I don't really find that they focus on that. Like, I feel like in the UK, because I did some shows in the UK too, and I feel like that's a special point of the British comedy is to do this thing. But it's not the point of German comedy. Like, German people would rather make fun of France or, like, you know,
Are they
there's so
still
many other
angry about all
targets.
the teas you dumped into the ocean?
They might be. That's why they correct my spelling all the time and pronunciation.
But back to the UK, I've been in London. I lived in London for 4 years.
Nice.
And I know they have in their culture roasting.
Yeah.
They roast each other a lot too. So maybe talking shit about them will work next time. I don't know.
Yeah, like if I have something
They
to
love
say,
it.
I am there partly because I love it there, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess if I have something, it's more like I just kind of complain to my friends, maybe. Like, I'm tired of the passive aggressive stuff or whatever. But it's kind of like if I lived in Minnesota, it'd be the same thing in the U.S. I'd be tired of it, you know? They're not very direct, I'd say, is the thing. But, yeah, if I think of material, I'll do it for sure. So I'm not afraid to insult them, I guess. I don't think they're very easily insulted, to be honest.
Yeah, they wouldn't care. But doing a lot of comedy in different, to different cultures, like you did in Estonia, Erin, you did it in Germany, Rabiah, you did in UK, and also last night in Istanbul too. So how would you compare to audiences? How do they react to your material? What was the best audience you encountered with?
You know, my favorite, like last night was great. Like that, you know, the German audiences are pretty much what you'd expect. They kind of like to sit back and see. They're like, okay, let's see how this goes. Like,
Yeah, they are still doing internship on comedy. Like, what is a joke?
Yes, exactly. And I went, and they're, you know, in Germany, a verbal contract is binding. So sometimes if you ask people, do you speak English? They'll be like, potentially. Like, I want to know how this is going to go before I say I do, you know? Like, and I did this show on Mother's Day, and I was doing this thing at the beginning, and I could not get anyone in the audience to admit they had a mother. I was like, is anybody a mother? Silence. I'm like, does anyone have a mother? They're like, silence. I'm like, somebody's going to have to pretend they have a mother so this joke can move forward. So sometimes it's like,
That's tough.
it's like
Are
pulling
they like
it out.
not engaged?
No, they love it. At the end, they're like, that was hilarious. I'm like, then why didn't you laugh?
Yeah.
They're just very like, they don't want to be embarrassed. Germans are very like conscious
proud.
about like, oh, what if I laugh and everyone looks? And they're also worried about like following the rules. Like maybe this is the first show they've been, maybe laughing loud is rude. Like they have a lot of like complexes, I would say.
We have that here too. Like,
Yeah.
maybe like I don't think the audience last night was like that at all, but like in Turkish shows, like my material, a lot of women enjoy my material, but here women are like embarrassed to laugh.
Yeah.
So I'll see in the audience like they're enjoying themselves, but they're like closing their mouths, or you know, they don't want to make too much sounds.
Yes.
So yeah, we encounter that here too.
Yeah, that's a specific thing about this kind of audience and kind of being embarrassed. Like one of my favorite places to do comedy is actually in Luxembourg.
Luxembourg. Very
Yes.
specific, yeah.
Yeah, no. So I live about equidistance between Frankfurt and Luxembourg, and so those are my two biggest markets where I do most of my shows
see.
outside of my own town. And Luxembourg is amazing because it's so international. Like when you go in there and you're like, it's like that bar in Star Wars where there's like one of every creature, you know, like
The cantina.
yeah, exactly. Like you'll be like, where are you from? And they'll be like, I'm Polish, but I live in Madagascar or whatever. You know, like they're like, because of that, like because they all feel like they're away from home, like they're ready to laugh. Like they don't care. They're not ashamed. They, you know, they're really open to everything. The only thing is that you can like not do any jokes that have very specific references, like a local grocery store or something like that, because everybody is from someplace else. And it's a really, really fun crowd.
Luxembourg, okay.
Yeah.
Take a note of this, any comic, if you're listening to this episode.
Go to Luxembourg.
Yeah.
Exactly. Also, they're rich.
Looking for
that's pretty cool.
husbands or
Exactly. Looking for a
Pay
paid
what you
show.
want. Yeah.
Yeah, put a show for 100 euros per seat, and you'll be set for life in Turkey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you guys
Nice.
enjoying the exchange rate here?
Yeah, like for us, it's been, or for me at least, it's been really good because we both get paid in dollars. And so the dollar, so like in the past like 3 years I've been in Germany, I've always been like 20% more broke than I was hoping, you know, because of the exchange rate. But like now we're almost like 1-to-1. And so things are turning in my favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on pounds, but it's worth the same as the dollars now.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I work in London for a British company, a British-based company, but it's like the same thing. It's and the pound went down in value so much that even though the pound went down in value a lot, it's still okay here.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh,
so.
it's great here.
It's great here.
Yeah, it's not
In
just
America,
okay.
I'm having a problem too now. I'm kind of annoyed. You know, but yeah.
Okay.
We just can't go home.
So, Rabia, you mentioned you are working in UK for
Yeah.
an American company, you said?
Well,
Sorry.
our company's
British
international, so
International?
I'm working for the
But
British.
they're based in the UK.
yeah.
Based in UK.
We have people all over.
So you have
like-
to have a day job, right?
Yeah,
to
yeah, I
survive.
do. Yeah.
Does it apply to you too, Erin?
Yeah, I work for in a university that's on the military base in Germany. So I work for the U.S. U.S.
Yeah.
government. But yeah, I work part time though, so I can like have some time to actually do more comedy.
You also organize shows in the same military base, right?
I run a show on the base, a monthly show, and it's an all-American audience. It's actually really cool. It's like if you wanted to do a show for Americans in Europe, or like if you're a comedian and you want to see what it's like to have an American audience, like that's the only place you
Yeah.
can really do it, right? Like, I mean, it has its pros and cons. Everybody who comes onto the base has to go through the security and get a pass, which for some comedians has been a problem.
Has there been people who like weren't able to pass?
Well,
through?
just recently, nobody's been turned around by Interpol or whatever, but recently a dude I had booked realized that his passport expired like the week of my show and he had not renewed it, and I had to book somebody else because you can't get onto a military base with an expired passport.
Right. But like there hasn't been anyone who was like
Nobody's been stopped at the gate like you
Okay.
can't come in.
Okay.
So far, not
so,
good.
Yeah.
I've been running the show for a year and nobody has been like turned around.
All
So
right.
does it count as it's a boring question, not related to comedy. Does it count as a U.S. land? So
Yes.
do you have to get a clearance to go into the United States with your
You
passport?
don't need
like-
a visa or anything like
Oh,
that. Like
okay.
the base pass, and you can, it'll be like a certain number of days. So for my comedians, it'll be like just that day that they can come on.
see.
But if you have like, for example, friends visiting you and you want to take them on the base or whatever, you can give them a pass for like a week or something like that. But we have a hospital. My husband actually works at the hospital there. And if you have a baby in this hospital, you don't get any kind of German anything. It's as if you're born in the United States.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow,
wild.
interesting.
Yeah.
So as a comic who is organizing shows in United States military base, what is the next point of attack of United States in the world?
I can only speak to where we're moving forward with comedy.
What would it be funny to attack? Which country?
Turkey? I don't know. No, just
Murat
kidding.
is enjoying this too much.
Yeah, I'm asking you as a comic.
We have Thanksgiving coming up.
Not an
so-
American. Don't answer this as an American. I'm asking you as a comic. What war would be funny? U.S.
Oh
versus...
my God.
I'm gonna have to say Luxembourg. No, I'm just
Luxembourg.
kidding. They're small. We
You'll
can take
double
them.
your
can
audience
take
base,
it.
right? Americans and also in Luxembourg,
Yeah,
100 euro
they wouldn't
seaters.
see us coming. They're like pretty small, and it's pretty close. Like I don't want to walk that far. Like,
I love how Murat is scaring both of you right now.
I'm just like, I've suddenly become a pacifist completely.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I don't know how I scared you guys. You don't have guns right now on you? Another stereotype joke.
yes,
Just
very
for you.
amusing. Very amusing.
Air America.
Yeah. So we talked about different places you've been on stage and also audiences you come across. And can you talk a little bit more about your writing process? How do you write jokes?
You want to start?
Sure. So a lot of times I will just have a phrase or a thought that I think is funny, like just in my head. And so I'll just throw it in my notes on my phone, right? The notes app. I use the iPhone, so I have the notes app. And then I'll just leave it. And sometimes it'll be fully formulated right then, or sometimes I'll just leave it and come back to it in a few months or even a year. Now, I mean, I haven't been going that long, but it's been long enough that things are for a year or more. And then I don't formally sit down and write too often. I'll try to, and I just like fail and start.
It's hard to do this as when you were working in a day job, right?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And I try to like, one thing that comedy's helped me with is just like leaving work when I'm done with work. Although Erin knows, like I told her today, it was 4:00 and I'm like, this is the first time in weeks or maybe even a year that I haven't looked at my work email once in an entire day. So it's pretty cool. But basically, yeah, I'll just write, like sometimes I'll write a whole joke at once, or I'll just have a phrase that I need to figure out how to work it into a joke or work it into a form, and I'll come back to it. So it just depends. And I do writing workshops every once in a while. Like there's this free one in London called Angel Writing Gym. And so I'll go there and then you just get some exercises and then that might trigger an idea or something. So I've done where I've sat down and write. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just rewrite my jokes I know already and try to get them word for word and see how they're working if I want to fix them a little bit. And then that'll lead me to writing something else in that zone. So it's kind of all over the place for me. Yeah. I wish I was one of those people who sat down every day for an hour and wrote, and I'm just not, I don't do anything other than maybe go on my phone for an hour a day consistently.
Angel Writing Gym, is it in Bill Murray Club?
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's
Yeah.
every Sunday they do it. And it's just,
How is the process? Like a bunch of comics get into the room and just tell new
and
jokes to each other?
No. So there will be a pro comic, someone who's been on the circuit for a long time, that will lead the gym, and they'll do some kind of lessons. And it depends. Like this one comic that was there, Sarah Isles, I think it was. She was really useful, but she just did a bunch of writing exercises with us. Then we could write a minute if we wanted to based on those exercises and go up and perform it. And she would just give us a little feedback. Another comic, Philip Simon, he did one-liners with us, and that was really cool, and just on different subjects. And those are just two examples, but it's just different ones. And sometimes, and you can just sit there and just be kind of writing whatever you want, or you can be fully involved in answering questions and stuff. But every week they'll have someone amazing who's just kind of taking time out to talk to people and teach some lessons.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should not do that here too. What do you say?
Maybe. I'm really closed off to like workshops and all that.
You don't like them?
No.
I didn't.
I don't want to hear other people's opinions.
I didn't,
No. It's not. It's not about sharing opinion. Like I'm down to like get together just to write, but even that I'm not. I don't.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think workshops are dangerous.
Especially if you are new to the comedy. I think you should experience stage time by yourself at least a dozen times, then you may check out the workshops. People have this, I find them as very scammy, that they start up this workshops for newbies to comedy, and even before they've been on stage ever, they tell them how to write jokes, how to perform, how to watch out for little nuances, but you have to be on stage. You have to experience stage and adrenaline by yourself for the very first time without any guidance, I think. I agree on that. But
yeah, and like the feedback you get at the workshops, especially like not specifically by writing your jokes, but performing, I think that can be like you end up getting like this feedback and it sticks with you, and then you have to like unlearn it in like 3 years.
It creates a chilling effect, right?
No. I'm not saying, like, let's say I perform a joke at this workshop and someone is like, the way you use your hands is blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
So then I get stuck on the way I use my hands, but maybe I should be focusing on something else. Or maybe the next time I perform, I wasn't even going to do my hands that way. And then I'm all like fixated on my hands and doing my hands that certain way. And then like 2 years later, I realized that, wait, actually that is it. I should not be doing it like that. But then I've learned it in that way. So I have to unlearn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of time people after open mics or something, I've been doing comedy for 10 years, so they come up to me to get some feedback. And a fellow comic gave me a good advice. If you don't like their set, just don't tell anything bad and tell them, you should watch these specials before you move on. So this is a good advice before giving them a direct feedback on their movements on stage or choice of words. You just give them a direction where they can follow other great comics and copy things they like. I think that works better.
And it's such an individual process, like stand-up, you know? Like you're doing your own material by yourself on stage. I feel like some things you just have to figure out on your own.
I think so too.
I have a little bit of a different opinion in that I feel like there can be a place for this kind of like stepping stone. Like, I actually, about a year ago, I was working with Jess. She's a Luxembourg comedian, and we were like bemoaning the fact that there are like no women in the scene. Like, it's extremely common that a lineup will be just 6 men, and if there is a woman on there, it will be only one, like no more. And we were disappointed.
Same here.
Yeah, and we're like, why aren't there any more women? Like, we know a lot of funny people. Like, we have funny friends. Why is no one doing this? Why is no one trying this? And we realized that it's almost like a chicken and the egg thing, right? Like, if you're a woman and you go to an open mic and you're the only woman there, and nobody, like, people were really dicks to me when I first got started too. Like, I would sit down and they'd all get up and leave or something like that. Like, people were really aggressive. And we were like, okay, what if we had a workshop where we just did like a one-day thing, be like, first write some jokes, and it would go to an open mic on that same day. So you would have the whole experience of writing a joke and telling it on the stage in one day in an environment where it was just other women who also wanted to do that. Oh. And it's not because you have to baby us or something like that. It's just like a way that, and so we did it. We put it on.
Creating
and it was,
space.
Yeah. We put on this workshop called Festrogen. It was a women's festival. I named it. And we had 17 women that showed up. And after the workshop, we did it one day. And then we had a show that night, like a pro show. And we had but they went straight to the open mic. They all did like amazing. They wrote their jokes were so fucking funny for people who had never, written jokes before. It was super great. And then after that, like 8 of the women who had been in there formed their own mic, and they run it now to this day. Like, they started running it.
So they're
and
still doing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
And so they formed this group called Duchesses of Comedy, and now they run a regular mic, and everybody who wants to show up without it being like only men there can come to their mic. And they also, and we have like a really good relationship with the dudes because there's already a couple mics in Luxembourg, but they're all like really, but that was just the helping hand that they needed. Like, and we did not tell them. I taught the workshop, and my colleague Anshita, actually out of Cologne too, she's like a pro comic who tours around. And we both taught it, and it wasn't like telling you what to do. It was more like, how do you, like, start writing stuff down.
More pussy jokes. We want to hear more pussy jokes.
If you have not, written a joke about your period, I'm going to need you.
Get out of here.
The feminist agenda requires that you do this.
I wrote my whole thesis on this. Like, it was called Women in Comedy.
Awesome.
And I interviewed a bunch of comics like like Sarah Silverman answered my questions
her.
and
Amazing.
stuff about like why fewer women do it and how was your experience and all that. And it's really complicated, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Like the characteristics you need to become a comic aren't encouraged in women when they're young.
100%.
And then the environment you do comedy in, it's bars, it's late at night, it's around a bunch of men and alcohol, and women don't necessarily choose to be in that environment. And it's just a male-dominated scene, and like it is in many fields. So I don't know, it makes sense that less women are doing it, you know, like...
But we decided we wanted to build the scene that we wanted to see. And like from that standpoint, it was really successful because now we have like this tap and, you know, and they're doing this mic all the time. And in a year, we'll be able to be on like better shows with them. They have more experience. And now I don't have to be like the only woman in the lineup because there's many more women who are wanting to do it too. Like, so I guess that was a success story. I feel like I have seen like what you guys are talking about with predatory workshops that are trying to.
Do they go out of that scene, out of that mic, and so they go to other shows?
Yes, they go to the other mics now, and they go, you know, if they want to, they go in pairs or whatever, right? So they won't be the only one there. Right. And there are dudes that come to the Duchess's mic too. Like it's a really good crossover. And it's, you know, and now they feel like when you come at something as a producer as well as a comedian, I feel like you actually come in as a higher status. Do you know what I mean? Like I know for a fact that some of the male comedians in Germany only give me the time of day because I run a successful show. Yeah. And if you have this behind you, it's much easier to walk in because everybody's be like, oh, she could book you. Like you better, you know, if you're thinking that about her, you better not say it because you want to be on her show later. Yep. Like I recommend honestly producing.
And laugh at your jokes extra hard, right?
Exactly. Laugh all the way to the bank.
Give me a spot. So we talked about Rabiah's process. How is your writing process?
I would say, you know, I have two ways that jokes come to me. One is organically, where I just think of something that's really funny and it's fully formed, and I keep a notebook. I don't like to put it on my phone. I don't know why. It feels better to me to write it on paper, and then I can cross it out. I don't know. It just feels more natural to write.
I mean, I put notes, like just an idea, and then I write.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm the same. Like there's something about paper, right?
Yeah.
It's nice, But
so sometimes, you know, a joke will come to me, but obviously that's the minority of the time that I think of a great joke that doesn't need anything else, and I just write it down. The other part of it is that I'll have like a targeted thing that I want to do. I also am not one of those people who can write for an hour every day. Like only people like Jerry Seinfeld, who's like has his life supported by money and his wife and everything. Like, no, I have to do all my other things too. I'm not going to sit there and write for an hour, but I'll be like, okay, I'm going to focus some time on this. And I have some prompts that like the funniest thing, the stupidest thing, the worst thing about, and I like to, you know, I like to do something where I'm like, oh, I wish I had more jokes about money, or I wish I had more jokes about Alaska, or whatever I'm trying to like build out in my set. I'll be like, okay, what is the stupidest thing about money? Or what is this, you know, and I'll try to think and I'll write it down and I'll kind of brainstorm a little bit. And then I also like go back and look at the things that I have written before. That's
great. I think more comics should do this. Like thinking about a subject and try to tackle it down with more jokes.
Yeah. So the funny thing is the Angel Writing Gym, that's the exercise they show you. Like, so they're not telling you write a certain way. They're just like, here's exercises that work. Yeah. For me. Yeah. And try it. So it's kind of like, I think on the subject of the workshops, like the ones that tell you that they make the claim, you'll be funny at the end of this. That's bullshit because no one can make you funny. You have to make a lot of people are not funny.
What you're talking about, the Angel...
But just going
That's an understatement. A lot of people are not funny. That's the tagline of this episode.
Most people.
The workshop you're talking about is a writing workshop.
And it's just, it's
which
not
is,
like
I think,
you're
different than
but those
like
comedy
a performing.
Ones,
That's true. That's
and
true.
I did one of those. I did a 6-week course. That's how I started.
Yeah, you were saying.
I didn't have I wanted to do it for almost 20 years. And I thought I was too fat. That was a big one.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, how can I go on stage and have people look at me? And then I thought, no one will think I'm funny. And I had all these things like that going on. So I just did it. So I learned, one thing I learned, the most valuable thing, put the mic aside. the mic stand aside.
Yeah, don't leave it in front
Don't
of
leave the mic stand right in front of you. So many comics leave the mic stand in front of them so everyone can look at the mic stand. But I learned that stuff like
but
that.
they oversee it too much.
But I'll tell you, like, of the 12 people that were in the workshop, I think 3 of us are still doing comedy or something like that, right?
Right.
And so, but I think you're right, because people would go in thinking, oh, now I'm going to be funny.
Yeah.
And then they would kind of exploit that. And it's crazy. And then, yeah, you hear feedback, but then it's like any feedback. I don't know about you as women, the two of you, but for me, I've gotten plenty of unsolicited feedback.
Most
Woman in
of the
comedy.
feedback I get is unsolicited.
Yeah, so it's like, I think with all the feedback, you have to know, like, what to take on board and what to dismiss.
Sure.
Yeah.
And but the thing with like certain courses, the people place themselves and position themselves as someone in power, someone who's a gatekeeper, someone who's, if you don't listen to me, you're not going to be successful. And those kind of people are really scary to me.
Yeah.
So I agree. But yeah, like the work, like the writing, like exercise, like Erin talked about, are so valuable.
Yes.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like when we approached it as we were like, we would like, it was almost like a job training. Like, I wish I had coworkers, you know, like I wish there were more women here to do this with. So please come and join me, you know. And the only kind of like performance feedback we gave were things like don't yank on the cord at the end of the, you know, like things that would break the mic or like, you know, when you show the light, like get off.
It costs
like,
money, people.
Right.
Everything
Yeah.
costs
Dude,
money.
Those were the
Turkish
kind of,
comics have such a problem with running the light.
that doesn't surprise
they?
me based on what I've seen of Turkey
They
so far.
stay running the light, man. They be running the light all the time. I hate it.
They're like little babies. You need to show the light every time.
Every time, and then they're like, all right, that means I got 5 more minutes.
It's so rude.
It is, but like, you can get away with it here. Like in
Yeah.
the States, people will talk about you. You know,
Yes.
they'll judge you to your face behind your
won't book
back.
you next
they won't
time.
book you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, no one will say anything, or even if they do, they're gonna get booked again because they're good enough, and there aren't any other comics you
That's
can
the
book,
problem with a
you
small
know?
scene. Like,
Yeah.
you have to tolerate behavior that wouldn't
Yeah.
be, That was something that was new to me when I went from Estonia back to the U.S., too. Like, I didn't necessarily have those kind of bad habits because by nature I'm a little bit of an anxious person, so I would never, like, take 5 more minutes because I'd be like, ugh. But, you know, the stuff that we tolerated in Estonia would, like, fly not at all in the scene in Seattle.
Yeah, English comedy scene in Istanbul is still its baby steps, like your first year in Estonia. It's similar to that. But in Turkey, to give you a perspective, maybe if you get the total number of all the professional and semi-professional comics in all around Turkey, it doesn't add up to 100 comics.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 50. You know.
Yeah, I'm being generous today.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Yeah, 200 comics next year. But even
Yeah, I
more.
think in total, like people who go up on stage, it's like 250, 300.
Probably so.
And
But
that's
if you
like
can't-
open micers, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, but if you count all the people who did it for the one time, just for their enjoyment,
Yeah.
But even if people don't plan to become a comic, like professionally, I would suggest everyone to try an open mic once in their life. It's like the cheapest bungee jumping you can get, like adrenaline-wise. It's the cheapest adrenaline you can get. 5 minutes of stage time. You feel closer to death.
I do not agree.
I don't want to see all these people on stage. What are you
It's
thinking?
a hard no for me. I do not.
Yeah.
Get away from here. Don't. Because then they're going to go up and they're going to think they're good. And then they're gonna...
You can't deal with more men, with more ego.
No,
Yes.
I cannot. I'm good on that.
So, Erin, you talked about running a workshop. Any exercise that we can try right now?
Well, one of the things that I did, I don't know if we have like the stuff here, but like we talked about like writing a topical joke, like a joke that's about what's going on in the news right now. And that is, first of all, a really good way to generate new material that you maybe won't keep using it, but it'll be good for like a week or something.
Yeah.
And you can make a joke based on a headline, and it will keep you fresh and it'll keep your juices flowing about
Weekend
writing
update
jokes.
type jokes.
Yeah, exactly. So, like when the queen dies or something, then everyone automatically has a joke about the queen dying, things like that. So I don't know. Do you guys have like something that happened in the news here that we could like riff on?
I don't know.
Or news
I
somewhere.
don't follow the news so much. How about you, Nilüfer?
Let me. I've been following celebrity gossip. Turkish celebrity gossip.
While Nilüfer is checking that about Queen Elizabeth, so it was so big an event and global. Everyone made a joke about that. No one cares about too soon anymore. And the downside of this is that anything you come up with, I immediately think that somebody else already came up with this on Twitter, probably. I don't check it, but probably somebody else already said that. So I waited out, then it's not relevant anymore to make a joke about the subject. I don't know, I never find a sweet spot about making jokes about news.
Well, I like to take the more obscure news too. Do you know what I mean? Like if you have something, you'll be like, oh, did you know that, Brett?
Oh, we can talk about Elon Musk buying Twitter, and he's going to have the people who have a blue tick pay like $20 a month, I think.
Right.
This lady Demet Akalın was really upset about it. She was like, "Yok artık,"
A Turkish pop singer.
Yeah, Turkish trash pop singer.
I don't think I would know who she is, even if she paid Twitter $8 or $20 a month.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah,
idea who she
definitely
is.
not. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Paying $20 a month to have a blue tick on your name on Twitter.
I think it devalues it, to be honest with you. I really do. I think it devalues it because that wasn't the point of it. The point of it was to show it was an authentic account and that was really the person.
It's not like you pay $20 and you get a blue tick. It's like if you already have that blue check mark, you have to pay $20 now.
To keep it.
To keep it, yeah.
Wow, Elon Musk really needs some jet fuel.
Yeah.
Hey, if we all want to go to Mars as a society, as human beings,
pay $20.
Pay $20 for your blue tick. It's gonna happen soon.
Would you give it up? Like if you had a blue tick, would you give up your blue tick so you wouldn't have to pay for it?
I probably would.
I would.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't feel like Elon Musk is like the best marketing person to follow. I mean, he gave his kid the name of a barcode or whatever. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure his ideas are all 100%.
Yeah, I think he's solving the wrong problem this time.
Yeah, what is next? Tattooing a QR code on the forehead of his kid? Which one is this? I have so many kids, I can't really.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk thinks everyone has the same ego he does, I think, is the thing. And they probably don't. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a proper headline. Sorry, that was the latest.
But no,
news.
that's like one idea for riffing. And like if you want to have something, and it's really good, like if you're hosting, like now that I host my own show and I get a lot of the same people every month, so I don't want to be telling the same jokes every time, right? So I have to think of something, and sometimes it'll become like the week of the show, and I'm like, oh no.
You host it?
Yeah, I host every month.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh no, I haven't written anything. Like, and it's gonna be the same dude in the front row. Like, and so I better think of something.
That's
and then
a good challenge though. So you have to.
It really is. And so I'm mining, like news and like everything that I can think of that would help me, like prompt me to think something new. Because sometimes you just look at your paper and you're like, I can't be funny. Like, how do I funny? And you just,
So, any aspired comedians that you... How did you start doing stand-up comedy anyways? Do you have any comedians that you look up to before you started? Like before you even think about doing comedy, did you follow any comics and said, I want to do this one day? Any aspired comedians?
So this is not politically correct anymore, but the very first special that I fell in love with was Eddie Murphy's Raw.
Yeah.
Why is Eddie Murphy not politically correct anymore?
No, the special itself is it's super
outdated now.
Raw.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and he's wearing like this red leather outfit, and like I watched it again, and honestly, some of it still stands up really well.
Yeah.
But we used to quote it to each other, like when I was a teenager. Like me and my brother used to like say lines from it, and that was really like my first. But I never thought like I could do that. Like I grew up in Alaska, and we didn't have any comedy clubs. We didn't have anything there. I lived in a village, and I was like watching Eddie Murphy, like wow, like this is amazing. This is the most glamorous thing I've ever seen, But then when I got older, I think the first person, like Sarah Silverman, was actually one of the initial comedians I watched where I was like, Like that's, it's maybe there is something. And I feel like that, just not to turn everything back to like women in comedy, but like the more women there are, the more you think about it, the more if you're a funny person and you see someone who does that and you're like, oh, I could do that too.
In any industry, in any field,
definitely.
you see more women to look up to.
I mean, my mom's a huge feminist, divorced, single mom. She gender studies. She's a sociologist. So I grew up in a really feminist home. And I grew up watching a lot of comedy too. And like the only lady I saw was Sarah Silverman. And I was like, this is something men do.
Yeah.
Even I thought that.
Yes.
So I you're right. Representation. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
David Letterman was the person I adored. I would record him every night and watch him. Like I would get up super early in the morning and watch him. And that was more on his show. And then so then Richard Pryor's someone I've watched. Now my comedy's it's almost clean at this point, and I think it's very different than me as a person. I think I'm more blue as a person than I am as a comedian, but and now it's like more storyteller kind of people, Mike Birbiglia and things like that. But I think the first person I saw that I really admired was David Letterman, and just what he would do, and I loved it. And that's kind of one reason I even have a podcast, so I can talk to people and have conversations. But him and Robin Williams, I'm nothing like him, but he would crack me up. Like he was just amazing.
Robin Williams stole a bunch of jokes. Like he would steal jokes all the time. He would steal them, like he would hear a comic do it, and then he would do his joke, and then he would like try to pay them for it, or someone would like tell him about it, and he'd be like, oh, I gotta do this. Like, isn't that so interesting?
It was crazy, guys. I had this lady I was on this contest. It's the one Erin, I told you I did the other week where I got 2 minutes and I just bombed and that was it. But like I did the contest before, and this woman, I tell this one joke. I didn't do it. You guys didn't hear it, but I tell this one joke. And it's fine. It works. I think it's funny. And she told me, "Oh, I love that. I'm going to use that." And I said, "What?" And then she legit in the next round used part of the joke in hers.
Oh my God.
But it fell because it wasn't even her joke and she didn't do it well.
Yeah.
But it was crazy to me that you told me you're going to take my joke and you did it. So I immediately, when I got home that night, I did a reel of that joke just so it'd be established in my 200 followers on Instagram that I was the one who did the joke first. But it's so wild to do that.
This is the way now. This is the new digital age way. If you want to establish that your joke is yours, you have to put a reel first.
Yeah, and a friend...
You would be the first one to put it.
A friend does a joke, and I heard another comic do it, and I need to actually tell him. It just reminded me. But it's like funny, but not funny. It's like so rude.
It's so rude, yeah.
Now, I'm so worried about like the parallel thought thing. Like if I think of some joke that I think is really fire, like a really good one-liner or whatever, I Google it to make sure someone else hasn't already thought of it. Even though I thought of it, I didn't steal it. I'm just like, I don't want to be doing the same exact thing.
Oh, that's being extra careful.
Well, you don't want to be like, to me, it's so demeaning to be seen as somebody who steals jokes.
Yeah, like even what you're saying about the Queen, like with the topical stuff, it's like there's going to be certain things that are just common that everyone said. I posted a joke the other day and then my friend wrote, "Oh, I've seen that before." I was like, that's fine.
Right.
Like I was embarrassed, but then I thought, well, I didn't know, so I just...
Yeah.
But it's all right. Even the greatest scientific discoveries had parallel thinking all around the world.
It depends on how close it is too. Like you can have two jokes that are on the same. Like I have this joke that I do about feminist porn, and I had a guy on my show, and he also has a joke about feminist porn. But like they're completely, which is a pretty random thing. But they were different takes on the whole thing, and we developed them in completely other circuits, so it was fine. Even we did both the jokes on the same show.
I have a feminist porn joke as
really?
well. Yeah.
See, like there's
Nikki Glaser has a good, a respectful gangbang joke.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
Robin Williams probably would have been telling it now.
But when like comedy first started in like vaudeville and all that, everybody was doing each other's jokes. Everyone was stealing jokes. It was really difficult to keep track.
Well, this is like the Marvelous Mrs. Mabel, right?
Maisel,
what's her name?
Maisel.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah,
she literally the show starts with her husband doing this routine that is literally word for word somebody else's routine.
Well, that happens a lot too. But like these people were like just stealing jokes and doing it like their own and blah blah blah, and then there was like a union formed, so you would like write your joke, send it in as a letter, and then that would be like, that's now your joke officially. And you know, like the word, do you know where blue comes from? Like being blue in comedy?
No.
It's from like doing it in vaudeville, and you would get a blue letter if your joke was like too, you know, racy. That's where the term
interesting.
comes from. Yeah.
Interesting.
Fun
What
fact.
does it mean being blue in comedy?
So not kosher, like
Vulgar.
sex jokes,
Being edgy?
Being dirty, like doing dirty jokes.
dirty
Dirty
jokes, or too political can be kind of blue if
Yeah.
you're.
If you're in Turkey, yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah, or if you were
Allah jokes, you know.
in the U.S., like there was a time too where the CIA would go after people. The Smothers Brothers spoke out against the war, and they were taken off air.
Yep.
You know, so yeah.
I'm reading this book, The Comedians.
Yes,
Yes.
it's so
Yes.
good.
It is a
Yeah.
good book. I read it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Maron had the author on, and it was excellent. And then I got the book. My friend actually gave it to me as a Christmas gift.
What's
but
the
yeah.
name of the book?
The Comedians.
It's
Comedians.
a history.
That's where I learned the term blue.
Oh, I haven't read the book yet.
it's
So
in
you're
the
reading the book. I have the book on the coffee table. When I say I'm reading a book, it usually just means it's sitting there closed.
It's all in the beginning. It's
Reading the
so
cover over and
interesting.
over again.
Yeah.
That's how I read books.
People were like getting arrested left and right. Like
I like how no, it's just at the beginning. I'm like, no, literally. Now the book's actually there's another book on top of it.
Not even reading the cover anymore.
That's good. No, that's interesting though.
Yeah. I think it's good to know how it all started, you know. It's so interesting. The mob was like really involved in it. They like cut this dude's face because he like went up at a club that the other mob was in, so like 3 years he couldn't speak, and then he was able to speak again, but then he didn't snitch, so the mob who cut his face made him a star. It's so interesting.
I've been reading a lot of books about like history of comedy. One of the really interesting ones I read recently was called "We Have a Little Real Estate Problem," and it was about Native Americans in comedy. And it was really interesting history. You know, not every chapter was about like a different kind of famous Native American comedian, and it had like some people who are also like present day too, talking about what it's like to like be on the reservation and do like shows or to go out and it's. I actually recommend it. Like it was a different. I've never.
We have a real estate problem.
We have a real estate problem. We have a little real estate problem. That's what it was.
That's cool.
And, you know, it's like a reference to obviously like the settlement of the United States. But it was,
Cool.
Back into the IP stuff, we talked about stealing jokes or afraid of being accused by stealing jokes. I want to say things about that. Where does it start to steal jokes? I mean, we are talking tongues that we learn from our mothers. We speak the same language. So when can you really claim that it's stolen? Like, should it be over 4 words? Should it be over 5 words? How do you really draw a line where the stealing starts, where the knowledge ends?
I think punchline.
Punchline?
Yeah, if like the idea and the punchline is the same. Because I think like stealing a premise is like...
Well, like dating apps, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
premises can be so general that they can
Or, like,
yield
cab
thousands.
jokes.
It's
in
not even
Turkey.
stealing. It's like engaging and gaining new perspectives
It's
when
a
you read a
genre.
book.
She's laughing that I said
She's
cab
like,
jokes in
cab
Turkey.
jokes.
But
Yeah.
taxi jokes is like...
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
I have
really
that Uber
stealing.
joke. It's true.
Yeah, or Uber jokes,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But if like
We
the
are all human beings
punchline-
after all.
Yeah.
And you can do it inadvertently. Like someone could just do it.
Yeah, that's why I always Google. If I
Yeah,
think it's too
I
good, I'm
agree.
like, shit, did someone else think of this first? Like, if it's a bad premise, then I'm like, okay, it was probably me.
Yeah.
That's why I felt like really comfortable doing stand up in the States because I just felt so unique. Like I'm Turkish, I'm a lady, and I do like really blue like sex material. It's really difficult for a dude to go up and be like, I'm an immigrant on the streets, but a terrorist in the sheets. You know, it's like
Yeah.
who's gonna do those jokes?
Yeah. I think there's some pressure actually on women to be dirty in comedy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because like
I think there's a pressure on us to be clean. 'Cause-
really?
Yeah, because I feel like everyone's like, oh, women always talk about their pussy. They're always talking about sex.
I hear that comment from male comedians too much.
Yes.
But I think that there hasn't been a lot of enough pussy jokes. We did a lot of dick jokes for over 70
Exactly.
years now. We exhausted the subject.
That's what it is.
Now woman is coming to comedy comedy scene, and doing pussy jokes is perfectly fine.
But if you don't do them, there's like this weird feeling that you should because you'll get booked or yeah.
No, it's true.
Yeah,
like
I
maybe
feel
the scenes are just different.
Yeah,
Like,
because I feel like I'm not dirty enough as far as jokes go.
What
and
is
I
the
feel like,
70s equivalent of show me your boobs to get your job?
yeah, and like
Tell us a pussy joke to get a spot.
no, but it's I don't know because like if you do certain shows, like I just feel that sometimes, I think I write pretty well and. I'll hear people laughing, but then people will say, "Oh, she's so funny," and she being the one who did all the jokes about blowjobs or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, I can talk about blowjobs too if you want me to.
if you pay.
If I, I can talk if I'm not busy, giving.
If you
one.
let
I'm
me
just-
blow you,
yeah,
do some joke.
No, I think there's a little bit of shock. You can always grab some laughs with a shock value joke as opposed to
Yeah.
like a joke that's like, but like, I don't know. It depends on what you're comfortable with too.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the States, even I felt like too dirty.
Really?
If you were a little more clean, yeah.
Interesting. Maybe, but it depends. So like, if you look at you're more blue and then I'm not, then maybe it's like a thing where I feel like I have to be, and then you feel
Right.
like so it
Yeah.
could be
Yeah,
like
maybe.
that too. And then that's the whole thing where that is something women will hear, right? You have to
Yeah.
be one or the other. Like you can't like I'll do some jokes that are a little bit more blue when I want. Sometimes I don't want to, or they're not going to fit in my set or whatever. And I think you feel like you have to be defined as something,
Yeah.
and that's hard too because it's like you can't just evolve as an artist or as a human or whatever your experience like that kind of thing.
You need to fit a mold that is the correct comic that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in Turkey, like it makes me less marketable when I'm that blue.
Really?
Yeah, because like they'll do big shows and
Yeah, you need to be extra clean
yes,
if you want to be booked
they
for
want
bigger
to
gigs.
book me, but they can't because people will get upset.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That I can see because there's like some
Yeah.
shows like even in the UK they'll be like we need clean only, and then
It's
I'll ask
so
what clean
absurd.
is. I was on a clean show in the US and I cleaned up stuff that I thought was already clean pretty much, and then this one guy was just super vulgar and I thought what. And then they said, oh, well, the openers needed to be. And it didn't even make sense. And I'm like, and then it turned out I was the only one who had been told on the whole bill.
Like they were worried about you.
And I was like, this is weird. Yeah, but it's a funny thing. But yeah, they'll do that like, say, schools and stuff like that. But,
Well,
you know.
cruise ships and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the ways, the major ways in the States that you can make money is casinos and cruise ships. And,
I wish I could do a cruise ship.
I heard it's kind of a nightmare though, because
I
first of
know,
all,
but
you
it's
have
like
so much time, right?
so
Because it's the
sexy.
same people every night.
Yep.
And also, if somebody complains, like they can dock your pay, and there's all this kind of stuff. And also, you're trapped on the boat with all these people for like a week, right? And you're like,
But if you make a joke, people get sensitive about.
exactly. So you have to
Yeah.
have really,
I heard
not
you
just
need
clean.
to have like an hour of clean, an hour of dirty.
I've heard you have to have like 3 hours and at least 2 of them clean because you have to be able to do full, alternating days and stuff like that. But, if you want to do that and you can make money like that, like I have a friend actually who's out of Stuttgart and he has a couple of Dry Bar specials. Do you know Dry Bar?
No.
Dry Bar is a series of shows that's actually out of, I think, Utah, but it's clean. It's clean comedy. They do hours of it, but the people in it actually are pretty funny. Like they really do, and like, again, to return to Jerry Seinfeld, like he said, like doing clean, funny comedy is hard, and it's really right. You have to do a lot of writing and everything for it. And so the Dry Bar comedy specials are really funny. And Bengt goes out. His name is Bengt, and he would go out on these cruise ships and do it. And that's basically like how he makes a living now. Like. And I would aspire to something like that, at least as an option. Once you have clean material, you can drag the same clean material out like anytime you need it, I made an effort. This was like one of my resolutions last year was to write a really good clean 10 minutes. And then whenever people were like, oh, would you come to my school's graduation? Would you come to my wedding? Whatever you need to do, you could do it, just with the same amount.
Yeah, loaded and ready to fire, clean material, you should have it.
Exactly. You can,
Yeah, I think we are coming towards the end of our podcast session. Thanks for being here so much. And any final words for our listeners, how they can follow you, maybe on Instagram?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Rabiah Comedy. So it's Rabiah Comedy. See, I'm already trying to change my last name. And my podcast is at More Than Work Pod. So I'll just say both of those. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm Erin Crouch, and my Instagram is Erin ERIN, and then an underscore ha 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 boohoo, and then my Facebook comedy page is just ha 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 boohoo. So you can find me there. And follow me around. I do shows not just in Germany and in the Netherlands, but I go up to as far as Sweden. I do shows all over Europe. So.
Cool.
That's great. It was great to meet you guys. And folks, thanks for joining in here today. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.